Hey guys, yeah, Bob Branch video, and it's better weather than last week. It was hot and humid. It was 95 degrees last week, and now it's much better, lower humidity, and yeah, it's kind of dry. I ridden today, and yeah, when we were riding horses, there was like dust all over the place. Okay, today we're talking one news things. One news today, Take-Two Interactive is interested in, I've heard one news lately that Take-Two Interactive is interested in the Nintendo NES. Yeah, look, Nintendo needs third parties, all right? I mean, their first-party games are pretty good, but it's nice to see one thing is interested in the NX, and hopefully other third parties will develop here. Hopefully Activision will make games for the Nintendo. I love to see Square Enix release games for Final Fantasy here. Heck, how about Square Enix release Chrono Trigger for the NX? I'd love to see a Chrono Trigger again. Secret of Mana. Yeah, make another game of Secret of Mana. But I'm really glad that, we're finally having a company making a game for the NX. Yeah, I'm thinking about pre-ordering the NX. And speaking of the NX, I do believe that I think the NX will be using game cards. Some people right now says, "Oh yeah, I think the NX is going to be using cartridges and but I think they're going to become more game cards than cartridges. I mean, the 3DS that uses those, and you're popping these cartridges into the 3DS or game cards. I think that's what the NX is going to be like about here. And I think the cards could plug into a controller rather than the console itself. And then it would, the data could go from the controller into the console. And, well, it could take a Bluetooth into the console and play it. Or either that, I think you put the game card into the console itself, and the Bluetooth data would in your controller and you also plug the game card into the controller itself, which becomes a handheld system when you take it on the go. And yeah, I mean, that's something I think that the NX would be about that way. It's probably gonna be like, the controller's gonna have a game card slot, and so is a console, and I believe that you plug the game card to the top of the controller when you're on the go, so you can play your games there. And yeah, it's going to be the less of the graphics, but I mean, it's also going to be two settings here. The game card will be reducing down to the reduce thing because the controllers are smaller than the console itself here. So yeah, I mean, these are the news, and I think with the game cards, they're going to be, I think it's probably going to be some game cards is what the NX is going to be using here. Okay, and I think that's pretty much the news of things, yeah. And now two different topics here. I call this news and my thoughts about it. During the last couple of weeks, there's reports that the Sega Saturn DRM has been cracked. And what do I think about it? Well, I think it's a good thing. I think that it will allow us to preserve the games. Excuse me. It will preserve the games of the past. Let's face it, Sega Saturn may have been a failed console, kind of, and then they released it for the Dreamcast. But let's face it, Sega Saturn had pretty good games for it. Panzer Dragoon Saga, Shining Force, and a lot of good RPGs for it. I mean, and it's just so hard to find. And I think DRM is pretty much good for it because, for one thing, it's going to open up the DRM to clone systems. Because the Sega Saturn's becoming old, and the games are probably just pretty much dying out, and like this here. But I think that the DRM being cracked is a good thing because you're right now unlocking the treasure that was locked away by this DRM, and this is one thing the DRM is bad for. I mean, it locks away these good old games of the past, and I just can't access them anymore. And they can make the same malfunction like that. But I think DRM is right now more smarter so that you can be able to transfer games to newer pieces of equipment here. But I have to say it's kind of a good thing because um, because it really does open up these older games back again to seeing the light of day again. So, yeah, I think it's like that. I mean, the games are 20 years old. They're becoming hard to find. And hopefully we can be able to see the light of day again. Maybe they'll release Saturn games on newer consoles. Or perhaps, I think the Retron or those companies that make these clones of earlier systems could open up to they can make a console that can be able to do it. Because look, the Sega Saturn, the 5th generation consoles, their patents have expired. So yeah, it's they could open that up to newer generations now. That's really good about what patents here. It's because when they expire, it can really open up these older classics again to be able to like that here. I believe a copyright should be the same way. It should be giving you a set amount of years, 20 to 40 years like this, and that's it. I mean, that's how much they really need. Because public domain is there for a purpose, it takes these good works and people can allow us to make some new works here. So yeah, that's my thoughts with the Sega Saturn. I think the cracking of the DRM, it's a good thing because it's it really does shows the light of day on these good old games back in the Sega Saturn. Yeah, the console wasn't that great, but it did have some good games for it. And now the second thing I'm going to be talking about is nostalgia. And I think this ties in again towards Nintendo. Nintendo releasing the Mini NES. Nostalgia is kicking in today, and I think one of the people is well, I think it's going to be popular is because people are just starting to feel that they're being things the same thing over and over again in these new games. Video games these days are just stale, and I think I think people are heading in towards classic gaming. It's because they're so vibrant. I mean, from the 80s to the turn of the century, there was so much variety in these games. I mean, that's why. I mean, nostalgia is. I mean, these old games are still pretty well done today. I mean, Super Mario Brothers. I actually heard Nintendo actually made a Super Mario Maker out of it here. And I think that perhaps that nostalgia is going to teach, finally teach these companies, look, how about you become good again, take inspiration from these older games and to make new ones. Yeah, I said that back in the past because I think this is what Nintendo should do. Take these old games, look as inspirations to make new ones. But also expand upon it. Have an online heavy thing. Make it online, make it, like that, and put 21st century, but get the juice of the nostalgia into it, and make it massively multiplayer online. They already did it with Mario Maker. I would love to see Nintendo take Mario 3D Land or 3D World, make it to Super Mario 3D Maker. Hey, make Mario Galaxy Maker. I can make my own planets, so I can be able to make my own Mario Galaxy levels, and that could be opening up a whole new generations. And hey, look, I mean, we consumers have proven that we're not as dumb as you guys think. All right, I mean, sure, you've got stupid levels, but we've got great levels in Mario Maker. I mean, it's the way it goes. I mean, Mario Kart Maker. I mean, people could make great tracks. This is how Nintendo sorts out. I mean, sort out the levels that suck and the levels that great and rate them here. So yeah, I mean, I think nostalgia will teach companies, say, hey, look, I mean, we don't want the same thing over and over again. We want variety. We want, the great games. And why were these nostalgia greats? Because it's got more in-depth gameplay. It provides us with a new challenge. We provide with a good challenge and stuff. Games today, I mean, it's like we're watching a freaking movie. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 4, I was like sitting half the time watching cutscenes. So yeah, I mean, they should bring that back. Hell, I think certainly they should. I think certainly they should bring back arcade games again. Bring back arcade games. I mean, I like to see new arcade games at Kimball's. I like to go to Kimball Farms, go to the arcades, and see these cabinets. I like to see pinball games again. I mean, nostalgia does have value to it, and I believe that if companies start taking inspiration from values, I mean, the games will be great again. So yeah, this is me. This is what nostalgia does. Nostalgia does take lessons to the company. Say, hey, look, these games are great. Take inspirations from take those inspirations to make new and build them upon these classics to make the new games. And this is what companies should do today. So yeah, I think the DRM is a good thing to Sega Saturn because it potentially unlocks these good old games of the past, and also so hey, I could play Sega Saturn on the retro combo consoles that I can purchase today. So yeah, it's me, JD out. Ah yeah, time to go to Donkey Kong. Yeah, much better weather than last week. It was just hot and humid last week. I'm surprised that a few horses. I'm surprised that people still riding horses. I didn't ride horses in that hot weather. And take a swim at that Kennedy Lake down there.